Eagles Talk, we are back post Memorial Day. We are here, A2D Radio, and we are brought to you by, if I can get the sponsor read. Oh, there you go. Bosco's Bread, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pies, sandwiches, cutlets, and meatballs. Mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. I have to say, guys, really quick with Bosco's Bread, I know I plugged them like about a month ago in terms of their bread. They also are the bread supplier for the new cheesesteak spot called Chest Steak, which is, I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's in like Pennsauken. It's very, very popular right now, and they're also the bread supplier for them. So again, Baggio's Bread, they are the real deal. If you guys know cheesesteaks and sandwiches in general, the bread is so important. So the fact that Baggio's supplies bread for a lot of these great and well-known cheesesteak spots should tell you all you need to know. So check them out, and you get 10% off your order if you mention A2D Radio. So can't go wrong with that. It's your boy Chucks, it's Brinks, it's PY, and Les Bowen will be on with us any minute now. We are back tonight. Gentlemen, how was your Memorial Day? How was your 2 weeks off, and how are you feeling? What's going on?
It was great. Ready to talk some birds, ready to talk some quarterbacks, ready to talk some Bryce Huff. They keep giving us a lot of material here in the summer months. It's great.
Yeah, it's good.
God bless them.
Fortunate. Yeah, it's fortunate because these summer months, you guys, for a football show,
They
in
lag.
general, hard. It's hard. It's very, very hard to come up with content. But hey, we're going along with it. So that's why I like to do these positional rankings shows. Kind of.
I missed last summer.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot of fun to do. So it gets the conversation.
I'm just excited. I'm like, I'm gonna get the draft stuff. I'm gonna get my list together.
And there was not, yeah. But then we got it this year. It's gonna be fun the next few weeks as we talk about positional rankings, get into a lot of debate, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. I love doing this stuff. Give me 1 second. Les seems to have let me get. Sorry, you guys. 1 second. But while we wait for Les is coming on soon. Let's get into our. Let's see. I'll lead it off with this. Let's do some quick thoughts, real quick, on the Bryce Huff trade before we get into the rankings and wait for Les. But Bryce Huff. Do any of you have the details of the trade?
Yeah, it's a conditional.
It's a
conditional 2026 mid-round pick. Basically, the rumor right now is it's a fifth that can turn into a fourth, most likely by playing time.
There you go. Okay, so that's good. To be honest, here, why don't you guys go? Let me. What are your thoughts about? So we talked about Bryce Huff and a free agent signing that didn't work out. So what are your thoughts?
Fit.
Yeah, it didn't fit. Brinks, what are your initial thoughts from this trade that we had?
It tells me that they view Jihad Campbell as more of an edge guy than a linebacker. I don't think you just dump Bryce Huff, even though he was a disappointment, as one of your depth edge rushers for a mid-round pick, if you don't have at least some plan for Jihad Campbell to be an edge rusher, probably a majority of the time. Not the biggest fan of the trade because you're just throwing away a depth piece for a mid-round pick when you're trying to repeat as champion. I get it. He was disappointment, wasn't even active for the Super Bowl, but we've seen guys rebound after a disappointing first season. So at this point, I would have given him a chance to prove himself and rebound. It also tells me Vic Fangio was never on board with the signing. So I don't think you dump him like this if your defensive coordinator liked him and had a plan for him. So I know everyone out there is probably happy that he's gone because he did not live up to the contract that the Eagles signed him for. But if Jihad Campbell can't be a legit edge rusher right off the bat in this league, you're gonna have depth problems at edge rusher. You're an injury away from being in trouble.
All right, PY. So you're shaking your head. I have thoughts about this too.
So
But let's bring in Les. Les, you there? I don't know. Do you guys see him?
I see a black screen where Les
Black
Bone
screen,
black
usually
screen.
pops up
Still having some
and
technical, so we'll
says,
get
"Hey guys."
But yeah. All right, PY.
yeah, can I
so
go real quick?
shaking your head. Yeah, you're shaking your head. I'm shaking my head too a little bit. So
Yeah.
why don't you
So
go first? Rebuttal.
So this has absolutely nothing to do with Jihad Campbell. I don't even understand why you're bringing him into this discussion. So it's a little head scratcher. This has everything to do with the fact that he doesn't fit. He wasn't worth the money. The fact that they weren't willing to give him a second year to bounce back. Like, who's the guy that we had as a D tackle and he was on the Niners now?
What was it?
Javon Hargrave.
Hargrave. Yeah,
Javon Hargrave. He had a subpar first season, but he had 4.5 sacks his first season. Bryce Huff had 1.5 sacks. Like, he wasn't dressing in the playoffs. Like, they don't view him as anything. He's not he's not good against the run, and he was just it didn't fit from a scheme wise. And there's no depth piece. If you're not playing, you're not a depth piece. You're just a guy wasting money. And that's what makes Howie a good GM. Even when he strikes out, he's willing to just take the L and get rid of the guys. Remember, we had DeMarco Murray here. We had Byron Maxwell. We didn't sit on these guys. We got rid of them, and we got them out of town to go get other guys. This has nothing to do with what they think of Jihad Campbell. This has everything to do with what they think of Jalen Hunt, what they think of Moro Jarmo, what they think of Nolan Smith, and guys like that. It has nothing to do with Jihad Campbell. Like, as of right now, he's sitting on the sideline. That's what Jihad Campbell is doing right now. And I love the pick, and I'm excited to see what he is. But they're not looking at him as, oh, man, we got rid of Bryce Huff. We need to see if he's going to pan out as a pass rush specialist. That's not what they're thinking. They're thinking they're two young players who they thought very highly of when they selected them, in Moro Jarmo and Jalen Hunt. It's time for them to take the next step. It's time for Nolan Smith to enter that next stage of his development. That's what they think. They also think very highly of the pass rushing guys that they got. They went out and they got Josh Uche and they got Azeez Ojulari. Like, those are who they feel immense value in. It's not Bryce Huff. They're not worried about Bryce Huff. If they were worried about depth, they wouldn't have cut Bryce Huff. They wouldn't have traded him to the Niners. He's here because they had no value in him. They did no belief in him whatsoever as a player.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to go to the extremes that PY does as usual. I do agree. I lean toward PY's sentiment. I think, Brinks, you are forgetting that there's Jalen Hunt, who they have high hopes for and played significant snaps, and then they did sign for depth pieces of Azeez Ojulari and Josh Uche. So it was a numbers game. It's the fact that, one, in terms of roster, you're looking at a guy who didn't really get much playing time toward the end of the year anyways. And, Nolan Smith and, again, Jalen Hunt got reps over him, got snaps over him. And then you add two free agents who
made plays,
who had their troubles and their struggles outside of here, 100%, but have shown flashes. So they're both dice rolls, but they are both options as depth pieces, and rotational edge rush pieces on this roster. So there was nothing here for Bryce Huff anymore. So I thought this trade was awesome, because if you would have told me the Eagles are going to trade Bryce Huff, I thought it would have been for like a 6th or 7th round pick, like barely
exactly.
nothing. You know what I mean? This having it be a conditional 5th that could turn even into a 4th based on performance is that's significant. Like, it doesn't make up for the expectations and the money that you signed him for. And I know that savings wise, it's like we don't save that much.
$2 million.
But you still get him off the books, and you still cut your losses while still getting something. So I thought this was a great move. Like, you cut bait early before it gets worse, and he's off your books for next year. And the dead cap hit isn't as big as it could be. So Yeah, I appreciate it. So now we got Les coming
He's
in. Les,
also
there you
not
are. Hey, Les.
Hey, fellas.
less.
Yeah, I'm on my
So
phone this time for some reason.
I can tell.
Won't.
Woo!
My laptop won't. The camera wasn't working. Maybe it doesn't
Oh,
like what I
gotcha,
have on. I don't know. But
gotcha. All right, so yeah, before we get into the QB rankings, we're talking right now, real quick, on the Bryce Huff trade.
yeah.
So, Brinks didn't like it, but PY and I did. So what are your thoughts on the trade, real quick?
Well, I'm just amazed. I think Dave Murphy had a good column in the Inquirer about this. They made this huge mistake, giving this guy all this money, and depending. They really, when they signed him, they were depending on him to be a big part of their team. And they won the Super Bowl easily anyway, without him even being active or contributing really a darn thing the entire season. And they got away with it because they had such a good team otherwise. I mean, that's just, I don't know of a comparable situation to that in the
Mm-hmm.
NFL. And now they've been able to trade him. And what the trade says to me is, I'm glad they were able to do it. It says to me that Vic Fangio just had no use for this
Nope.
guy. I think Howie, the things Howie has said would lead you to believe that he was willing to see if, and another year in the system, blah, blah, blah. But I just don't think Fangio wanted him around. I don't think he was ever a
Vic
good
was like,
fit.
hit the road, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good that he's going back to his old Jets coach, and
Yeah,
maybe as a situational pass rusher in a different system, he can be effective. But he was not at all effective here, and Fangio just, I'm sure, flat out told Howie, "There's no way this guy's playing. I'm not going to put him out
yeah,
there."
yeah. I think that a lot of us can have 2020 hindsight and all that, but I still think that I don't mind the move at the time because you took
Yeah,
It made
you traded
sense.
away Hassan Reddick. It made sense. You traded away Hassan Reddick, right? Because you had to. Like he
yeah,
wanted more money, as we can see that turned out to be the right move. You needed to take a big swing on an edge rusher who could
right.
have that upside, right? But as I told people, like, yeah, I loved the move. He was one of the phasing targets I wanted to sign because of the upside of what he could be. But oftentimes with prospects like these, there are also a lot of risk. And that was the risk, is that he doesn't figure it out as a run defender, and that he's like a one-trick pony as a high side speed rusher. And that's what it was. Like there wasn't his struggles on the run, and then his inability to really fit how Fangio likes to deploy his edge rushers. It really just it never gelled together.
Yeah,
And
Nope.
so I'm not gonna say, like, yeah, I was wrong in terms of me liking or thinking Bryce Huff would be something, but I still don't I'm not surprised that it didn't work out, because that's how it is sometimes with these high upside, high risk guys. It's just
Yep.
sometimes it just
yeah,
doesn't work out. But the process of how we swinging for the fences there, I thought was fine.
I'll
I
take
thought
it
was
every time.
Yeah, you take that time. And he did the same with a guy like Jalen Hunt in the draft. Third
yeah,
round, where people thought it was a reach, and it turned out not to be. And Jalen Hunt, you could argue, filled in the role of Bryce Huff toward the end of the year.
Way
And
better.
rotational edge rusher who was producing at a decent level. So
yeah. I
I,
think
I
everybody knew going in the deal with Bryce Huff was he'd had all these sacks for 1 year, and he'd never done that before, and he wasn't
Nope.
a rookie when he did it, and it was a risk. I mean, I don't think anybody thought it was a no brainer, but or that
Nope.
he was, every he was definitely going to be an all pro here, but it seemed worth trying to take a swing at, and it didn't work out, and it didn't end up hurting them at all.
Nope.
yeah, Les Martian does have a question here for you. I'm not exactly sure what he means by it, but he's asking if you've ever seen a trade execution the way how he did it with the Huff trade. Have you ever seen? I guess in a way, I'm assuming he's asking, have you ever seen a situation where we cut bait that quickly with an edge rusher that was highly touted.
That
and got-
quickly, no. I mean, I've seen it done. Usually you're into the second
Maxwell?
season.
Not an edge
Who?
rusher, but like a big time player they
Okay.
signed.
And the
Oh,
next year
yeah,
they traded
yeah.
him.
DeMarco Murray as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good examples actually. But did they end up trading DeMarco
Yeah.
Murray?
Yeah, they
What
traded
year?
him.
So
Yeah, they traded him to
Titans.
the
The
Titans
Titans,
for a
right?
4th-round pick swap.
Oh, okay. Well, that's swap. Oh, well, swap. That's that's not
It's a
really a
dump.
trade.
Yeah, it's a dump.
Well, you traded Maxwell to help move up,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was
was-
worth
and
that was
Alonzo.
significant. Yeah. Well, Kiko was here more than 1 year.
No,
I'm pretty sure.
he's here 1 year.
I
Really?
don't
1
remember.
year? It seemed longer.
It's
My
that's
least
longer,
favorite
right?
Eagle
Yeah.
ever. Kiko
Yeah.
Alonso.
He wouldn't
Kiko
even
Alonso.
crack. He wouldn't even
hear-
crack my top 10 least favorite.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my
I hate
God.
that guy. I hate
Fun
that.
guy
God.
to talk to. Not a great player.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only reason he got traded for is because he was a white Oregon Duck. And he would
Yeah.
sip
The
well,
Oregon
Chip
player.
Kelly. He
Chip
would
Kelly,
sip.
yeah.
They would do the sleep monitor and the hydration, Chip Kelly nonsense. And meanwhile, we let the best running back of the 2010s go up to Buffalo.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's true.
Thanks,
That's all
Chip.
true. It's not Alonso's fault, though.
Mhm. Yeah.
No, but it's
I'll do
Chip's
it- I'll-
fault, and I hate
It's
him.
not.
too.
I'm so happy they traded. I'm like I'm happy he did all the things that he did, because if we don't do those awful things, we're not here. We don't have 2 Super Bowls. We don't have 3 Super Bowl appearances in 10
I'm not
years.
even gonna touch. I'm not even gonna
touch what?
that.
It's
Yeah,
a factual
we-
statement. It's
we
a
don't-
factual
I'm not
statement.
even
You don't have
touching
to say that.
that.
You don't have
You've
to.
said
Okay,
a
all right.
lot
We'll
of
get to
dumb
that a
things.
different day.
You said a
We'll
lot
get-
of dumb things,
No.
PY. That's
factual.
by far the dumbest.
We'll get into
It's
That's
that.
the
facts.
dumbest
Right.
thing I've ever heard in my life.
Oh
They
my God.
threw away
Okay.
a championship core because the
What
because
championship?
the
They hadn't won a
the coach was
playoff
an
their entire
egomaniac.
run.
and wanted to just prove that he could do it with his guys. But you're happy that he destroyed.
Yes,
our
I'm
franchise
100%. I'm
because
100%
we have
happy.
What we have
They
now.
won
Like,
2
that's
Super
so
Bowls
dumb.
from 2009 to 2014. They won 0 playoff games. 0. Congratulations.
what he's
You were the
saying
LA
is-
Clippers.
That they wouldn't have been able to make the moves that created the Super Bowl 52 team had they not.
I'm not buying.
players.
I'm not buying
I'll
one
take my
bit
3
less.
Super
I'm
Bowl
not buying that
appearances
sales,
and my 2
sales
rings.
pitch.
We'll never know.
One
never
bit.
We'll never. I think it is. I think PY again is going a little bit too far. I'm not gonna say like I'm happy about Chip Kelly. Like I think I'm at peace with the Chip Kelly era
Mhm.
because in the end it worked out. You know, you went through all those struggles and like it was rock bottom, and then eventually because you hit rock bottom, how we learned from their mistakes and we were able to win a Super Bowl. So you're at peace with it. I'm not gonna say I'm happy. I'm like, okay, like good job, Chip. I'm not cheering for Chip Kelly.
He
Um,
didn't do anything
think-
good.
I think
But
also
we
but
don't
to
end
your
up where
point-
we're at without him.
Hold on. To your point, PY, I do agree that core from 2000, I guess you can say 2009,
Yeah.
2013, that core of Vick. I don't know if you want to throw in Foles there. Vick, Deshaun, Macklin, McCoy. It often kind of does get overrated. People assume they were a Super Bowl contending core
They were
when
mid.
they really didn't win anything. And I love those guys. I
They didn't
love
have
those
good-
guys.
They didn't have good
But-
coaching.
Yeah, but they
Andy
were
Reid
still
wasn't
here for
there?
Andy Reid. They were still here for Andy Reid. So like they had to like they just didn't prove there was no you can't just assume they would have won a championship if you hung on to them longer. That doesn't I think that's such an assumption. That's a leap. And we loved that era or that core because they were fun, but I'm not gonna say like they were a championship caliber
No.
core, you know, and they got Chip Kelly ruined it. Like I think that's going a little too far. So that's my
You
two
don't,
cents.
you don't
Yeah,
win
he-
championships trading LaShawn McCoy for Kiko Alonso.
You don't win them with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Les, well, your quick thoughts before we go into QB rankings. What are your thoughts on that Chip Kelly era? And
Well-
that core of Eagles, the core of during that period.
Yeah, he had a lot of great ideas in terms of strategy and so forth. He was a disaster as a personnel evaluator. If they could have kept him out of personnel evaluation, it might have worked. 2013 was an amazing thing. After what happened in 2012, I don't think anybody thought the Eagles were going to the playoffs in 2013 under a first-year coach, and it was fun to cover, and it really, really something. But then it all started to go down really quick after that. Even though the record wasn't bad in 2014, I don't think anybody thought that team was. The cracks were definitely appearing, and it was over very quickly.
was.
I kind of enjoyed covering Chip because he was an interesting person, and I'm a writer, not looking at it from a fan perspective. I enjoyed a lot of it was different. It was really, really different from any other coach they've ever had, in terms of the way he handled himself and the whole approach to things. And they kept a lot of stuff that he did, but as a interpersonal relationships were a disaster. And it's going to be real interesting in Las Vegas. I think he's learned a lot since then. And I think he did a hell of a job with Ohio State's offense last season.
Yeah.
But this is the NFL again, and you're expected to relate to people. And the players are adults, and that's going to be. I'm fascinated to know if he's taken that to heart, and if he's going to be, a better at that sort of stuff.
He's already changing Ashton Gentry's stance in the backfield. So
the good thing is though with where Chip Kelly is right now in this position is that he's not the head coach.
Right.
So that level of interpersonal relationships isn't as dire.
I don't know. I think an offensive coordinator, the guys in his room, he has to be pretty tight with,
Very true.
And that is just not Chip's
It's
MO at all. So we'll see. I don't wish him ill. I had a good relationship with him. It's going to be. I'll have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear that. All right. So without further ado, the main topic for tonight that people want to chime in on, and we got some comments already going in, and I am expecting this to be pretty chalk for the back half until we get to the top, and then it's going to be like, whoa, Nelly. So as always, I have my spreadsheet where all of us can.
The holy spreadsheet.
So let's do this. So I know I have 1 to 10. That's just in case.
I've got 1 to 10 as well.
You've got 10. You've got. Yeah. I didn't go. I went.
Damn it, Chuck! You told us we're only doing 5.
I said go at least 5, but
It's hard to do 5. I mean, the difference between 5 and 6 in this exercise is minuscule.
Brinks, how many did you rank?
5. I can go 6. I thought we were doing 5. I can go 6.
Yeah,
not exactly
I said at least 5. Go at least 5. But if you wanted more, you could.
Well, that's good. That's good because I was struggling with putting my number 5 spot.
Okay,
so
yeah, I went 7 deep, but that's as far as I went. So
not exactly a quarterback rich franchise, though.
Yeah, that's why it's just not like our options are.
The problem, one of the problems with this is there are some great quarterbacks. If you look at the list of all-time leaders, the problem is several of them didn't have their best years with the Eagles.
Yes.
And that's a little bit of a spoiler for my list, but it's really that's a striking thing when you look at that list. They did have some great quarterbacks. They just weren't great Eagles quarterbacks for very long, anyway.
All right, Les. Since you went 10, PY, how many did you do? You said
I did 5. I could probably do 7.
No, that's fine. That's fine. All right. So, Les, since you did 10. Let's start with your 10. The way we do rankings, I feel like it's the smoothest way to do it is we go up in ascending order. We'll go from 10 to 1, and we'll take turns naming each one that we have from 10 to 1, and then if we have that person, that player ranked in our list, we will mention where they are ranked, and then we
Okay.
will discuss that player. So so like say like Les, you get the 7 and your number 7 is my number 4, then I'll say I ranked them at number 4 and so on and so
Okay.
forth. And we'll discuss
I've got
that.
it. Yes.
So Les, who do you have at 10?
10 is Norm Van Brocklin, the
Norm Van
Dutchman.
Brocklin.
He won the 1960 championship. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback in the NFL, just not for the Eagles. He was only here a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
They promised him he'd be the head coach, and then they reneged, and he ended up leaving. So, but yeah, he's got to be somewhere in the top 10, and I'm going to put him 10th.
Okay, nice. Anybody have Norm Van Brocklin ranked?
No, he's not a top 5, I wouldn't think, for anybody.
Some older gentlemen. How dare you not put him in your top 5?
I can't speak because it's so far back. I can't. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I
wasn't even
I
the
was
same
4 years
game
old,
at that
but
point.
Mine
you
are
have
all
to
recent.
look at the record book, though. I mean, you can't just do it off of what you watched.
Yeah, you can't.
I mean, there's the guy Tommy Thompson who was the quarterback in 48 and 49 when they won the NFL, but that was all Steve Van Buren running, as far as I know. So I didn't put Tommy Thompson in my top 10.
That's true, yeah.
But number 9 would be Roman Gabriel, who's one of these guys I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Roman Gabriel was a huge NFL star. He was in a movie with John Wayne. I mean, he was like a Manning or an Aaron Rodgers. He was that level of star in the NFL. Just most of it was for the Rams, much like Van Brocklin. Gabriel didn't have great stats with the Eagles, but I think he's one of the top 10 Eagles quarterbacks of all time.
Nice. Okay. I did not have Roman Gabriel ranked either. Again, I'm showing my age, so.
Number 8 would be another guy from the same hometown as Roman Gabriel, who is from Wilmington, North Carolina. Number 8 would be Sonny Jurgensen.
Sonny.
Who actually played more games as an Eagle than you think, but they traded him disastrously for Norm Snead, and Sonny went on to be a Hall of Fame quarterback for the Washington franchise.
Jesus Christ. So we have 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, essentially, that, we can't really claim. Love it. Go.
Absolutely.
Eagles.
Yeah. And Sonny Jurgensen, they knew he was good. They just, he was the guy, it was, even back in the day, Sonny was a guy who liked to have a good time. And apparently ownership wasn't down with that. And they traded him for Norm Snead, who was kind of, he's not in my top 10, Norm is.
God bless you, Jeffrey Lurie.
Yeah. So now we're going to get, number 6, we're going to get to somebody that I think.
Or 7. We have 7, right?
You need to get to 7 first.
7, yeah.
Okay, 10, 9, 8. Yeah, you're right. There we go. 7 is going to be somebody that I think some of you guys are going to have higher. I've got Randall Cunningham as number 7.
Wow.
7. That's 7. Wes, what are we doing here?
Wow. If you look at his passer rating for his career, it's not about how well you ran or anything. He was an exciting player, and maybe I'm wrong. I have mixed feelings about putting him 7, but he could have been so much better than he was.
Yeah, if he had a coach who called plays.
He really didn't. He was not a great passing NFL quarterback. He was a great running NFL quarterback. And the offense just wasn't, no playoff success whatsoever with the Eagles. Again, he had a hell of a year with the Vikings one year. Yeah. But, I should have put him higher, but that's where I had him. And I'm sure some of you guys have him top 5. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think a lot. Well, Brinks, where do you have Randall Cunningham ranked? Do you
3?
Yeah, my 3. Okay.
I mean,
that's I can understand that.
Yeah.
I have him at 4.
I mean, this is a guy in 1994. I mean, he was compared to Michael Jordan in the athletic landscape.
The ultimate weapon.
Yeah.
He was before his time. If he had a little better coaching, maybe a little better offense.
How about actual coaching?
I think you hate Buddy Ryan.
I do hate Buddy Ryan, but I also
I
Also,
think there
telling
was,
your best player to just, hey, figure
Yeah.
it out. It's not a good game plan.
I
Well, I
think
think
also
I
that,
wasn't covering the Eagles back then, but I think everybody knows the story of Doug Scoville, the quarterbacks coach, who got off to a great start with Cunningham and was really, you know, developing him. And Doug Scoville died suddenly of a heart attack. And I don't think they ever got anybody else who knew what the hell they were doing.
yeah,
Uh,
yep, yep. I
so,
hear
yeah,
you.
I know
And I
that's
think
probably low. If I were to do it again, I sat down and did it this afternoon. Looking at it now, I'm thinking, maybe that's a mistake. I
maybe a
don't know.
little low. I think that with Randall too. I do understand like the coaching was not there. I think, but you also have to realize and admit that Randall himself even said like some of it was on him as well. Like
Yeah, it was. I mean, they
he
did
does
toward
take
the end of his he left here. He was backing up Rodney Pete. I don't know if you guys remember this story. Uh, Pete was injured. Randall was going to have to play.
Mhm.
Uh, you have to start, and this was back before they had the tablets and all that stuff, of course.
Yeah.
And Randall's wife was giving birth, and he left the team for 2 or 3 days to go out to where I guess she was in Vegas or wherever, and didn't bring his playbook with him. Forgot. I don't know. But
Oh
that's where I
man.
put him. So
Yeah.
I'm probably wrong. But
Yeah.
number six and number six, I'm confident is not going to be on any of your lists
Okay.
of top five anyway. Number six is Carson Wentz.
I have I had him at
Carson is actually on my list.
All
Yeah.
right.
I
Hold
have
on,
him. I would put him
hold on, what the hell?
seventh.
Hold on,
Well,
hold
he's
on. What
the
the-
only Eagles quarterback to ever throw for
No, I have
4,000 yards in a season.
Yep.
I have him at
And
7. That's right.
really, if you look at his
Season
stats,
passing leader. So
Briggs,
yeah.
where did you have him? You said
I'll put him seventh.
you put him 7.
I'll formulate. I'll get the 10. I'm working here on
Okay,
the
Ty,
fly.
where did
I'll
you have
get the
Wentz?
I am at 4.
Jesus Christ.
That'll be an interesting list. I can't wait
Okay.
to see that.
Oh, okay. All
I
right.
mean, you
Oh,
can
all
make
right,
a
we
case
Oh no,
for
it's
that.
not 4. No, I'm not 4. I'm sorry. No, 5. I'm sorry.
Okay.
5. Okay. I mean, that's still okay. Les, we cut you up, but what were you saying about Wentz again?
I was just saying that you can make a case for putting him higher than he is on my list. I mean, despite all the vitriol and the bad feeling, if you look at where he ranks in terms of things like interception percentage and touchdowns and things like that, it's pretty high up there for the Eagles. You know, but we all know what happened, so I'm not going to put
Yeah.
him any higher than I
Yeah.
did.
No, I
But just
understand.
ahead of him, I will put the guy who won the Super Bowl instead of him, Nick Foles. And
Oh, okay.
that's a funny place to put Nick Foles because if it hadn't been for that Super Bowl, Nick Foles wouldn't be on anybody's top 10.
Nope.
Yes. Correct.
And I
have
get
Foles.
every now and then on social media, somebody will if they'd only stuck with Foles instead of going back to
Oh
Wentz. And I
God.
was like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, oh my God.
I got a
conversation.
death threat once in my DMs because I said I didn't want to trade Carson and I didn't want to ride with Nick Foles. Like that's how crazy people were at one
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
Nick
I got
Foles
it.
Nick Foles is a wonderful man. I
Fantastic.
love him, but he had an entire career in the NFL,
Yes.
and
yeah,
he wasn't a great quarterback.
No.
yeah,
He was a guy who could get hot for a few games here and there. And that was the way he was his entire career with several different teams.
yeah.
And, I'm putting him 5th on the Eagles all-time list just because of what he did in those playoffs that one
Yeah.
year.
Yeah,
And then there's the people that, if Alshon Jeffrey hadn't dropped that pass the next year, Foles
my
was
God.
horrible in the playoffs.
Still third.
Yeah.
Even
in
if he
both
catches
of
it,
those
he's
games.
third. It's 3rd and 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean-
Nick gets too much love, I think, but
yes,
he certainly deserves to be.
yeah,
What he did
agree.
was
Yeah.
amazing. And so
Yeah,
he's
P.Y.,
number
my
5.
fa-
P.Y., where did you have Foles?
I had him at 3.
So, okay. Brinks, where did you have Foles?
6.
6. Okay. I had him. Let's backtrack a little because I know Brinks, you said you are sculpting your top 10. So I had Foles at 5.
Yeah, I can do 7. I got 7.
Yeah. Yeah, PY, who's at your 7 then?
Jaworski.
Okay, we're gonna have to come back to that because I want to speak more on Foles.
Okay.
Brinks, where's Jaworski for you?
Jaworski's 4.
4. Okay, I have Jaworski at 4 too. Okay, so let's go with these two because for me, it's these two that I had a really tough time with. I flip flop them. So for me, like if I could put Foles at 4 and Jaworski at 5 and like tomorrow and then the next day switch them back.
Yeah.
The whole Foles thing, I think that, and this is a comment again. You have to put Cotton Ball for Life says you have to put him top 5 because he got a first Super Bowl ring and he outplayed the GOAT Tom Brady. I think I have This is where it gets tough, and
Yes.
this narrative is going to be similar to when we get to top 2. Okay.
Yep.
Because how do you weigh if you're talking about greatest Eagles QBs in franchise history? What do you weigh? Like, are you weighing talent? Are you weighing longevity? Are you weighing production? How much are you weighing like the story and the moments they provided, right? Because Les, what you had said is right on the money in terms of Foles, like, really wasn't that good on a consistent basis.
Nope.
Why is he so beloved? Well, because he stepped in and played
He
wonderful.
did something nobody will ever do again.
Yeah. 2 games, the most critical 2 games and you can get in the playoffs, he played great. He played so well. But I think that, like, also it gets into the conversation of, like, is wins a QB stat, or, like, how important is playoff performance, and like, for all the conversation about Foles, and I think if I were to frame the question as who is the greatest Eagles icons in franchise history, Foles could be arguably top 5, top 3.
Yes.
But we're not talking about icons in terms of
We're talking about quarterbacks. Yeah.
We're talking about quarterbacks as a whole.
Absolutely. And my Cunningham thing, if you were going to ask me to rate icons, Randall would be much higher than where I put it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So
PY, you had 6.
Oh, I'm sorry.
6. Yeah, who's your 6, PY?
Vick.
Mike Vick.
Well, that will be my number 4.
That's your 4. I love it.
Yes.
Because I felt I was
so like, and I felt bad putting Vick at 6, but it's just like Les was talking about. As amazing as Michael Vick is as a quarterback, he was 2010. He was phenomenal. I know, Chucks, that's your favorite season as an Eagles quarterback. He was great in 2010.
And that's why I have him up there.
At their peak with him, they were a 6 seed. He got hurt all the time. He's inconsistent.
Well, that year he wasn't really inconsistent. That year he was incredible.
And they were the 3 seed.
Oh, 3 seed, whatever.
Yeah,
he didn't. It's not whatever. It's not whatever. They lost the bye, and it was the Joe Webb game. They lost the bye because the Joe Webb game because America's soft and didn't want to play in the snow, so they played on a Tuesday night, and it was nonsense. And some idiot named Joe Webb caught the Eagles sleeping, and they lost the bye week, and they had to play Aaron Rodgers in the first round at the Link, and they came up a little bit short because David Akers missed 2 field goals.
Briggs, where did you
and also Vick threw an interception that he didn't need to throw at the end.
But Akers missed 2 easy kicks that game.
He did.
Where did you have Vick?
5. My 5 slot. 5. Yeah,
I've never seen.
I've never seen anyone play the quarterback position in my life like Michael Vick played the quarterback position that season.
I've never seen the ball.
We all agree.
That's the best I've ever seen. Yeah. Whether it's Brady or Manning or Montana or whoever the heck you want. For those however many games he started for the Philadelphia Eagles, That's the best I've ever seen the
Yeah.
position get played.
Brinks,
And then he wasn't that good after that in the
Nope.
next
yeah,
year. But
He
that's the tough
wasn't.
one.
You're right, but I mean,
Yeah.
boy, oh
but
boy,
I have
that.
never
I mean,
seen the ball come out of anybody's hand like
Ooh,
that.
it's
I've
beautiful.
never seen an arm like that. I mean,
I
everybody
still
talks
remember
about
his
his
throw
running.
to Deshaun Jackson in the week 1
Yeah,
of the 2013 season. Like that was like one of the most beautiful throws I've ever seen in my life.
yeah,
It's unbelievable. Like he's Brinks. If we could disagree on everything, the fact that we agree on that, like I've said that so many times on ATD, it's ridiculous. That is maybe you can make a case for like quarterbacks, single season quarterbacks, being as good, but there was no quarterback that had a better season than Vick,
yeah.
single season than Vick.
Yeah.
Like
he
Vick,
couldn't be
Vick,
stopped. He should have
he
won
couldn't. He was
MVP.
insane. Like you're talking about a dual threat quarterback, who was executing a West Coast offense. Like literally, like he was finally in his bag as a passer. It
Yeah.
was phenomenal. It was a thing of beauty to see. I wish he was able to maintain that level of
Yeah.
play outside of 2010 because that
When
was
Bill Walsh drew up the West Coast offense in the '80s, that's the kind of quarterback he wanted.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
100%.
it's such a shame that Vic didn't take things more seriously early in his career, didn't get the
Yeah.
kind of guidance that would have, and he had said that, he didn't really study. He
Mhm.
thought he was better than everybody else. And I remember when the Eagles in the Super Bowl 39 era, they loved to see Atlanta and Vic because they knew how to shut that guy down,
Yeah.
it in fact, that was why I was so surprised that the Eagles signed him. Was I didn't think they thought that highly of him, but they really did. They just knew
Mhm.
in the offense he was in Atlanta and the way that they taught it to him that he wasn't going to.
No.
Yeah.
If they didn't let him run around for 200 yards, he wasn't going to beat them.
And you had a guy too that coming out of prison, he's desperate. He's
Yeah.
desperate to learn and change,
Right.
and because of his experiences and his what had
And he
happened.
really
to him.
was. It was
Yeah.
sincere. I honestly believe that. As much
Yeah,
as I
like,
hate what he did, I
There's
believe
very
it.
few times where I'll give support to people like Michael Vick. Like whenever you see the guy, whenever you see like, oh, domestic abuse and stuff like that, it always rubs me the wrong way because it's never sincere. They're all
Right.
full of it. They're lying. They're just saying what they
That's
gotta
not what
say.
he did, though.
I'm not saying that. Let me talk. What I'm saying is what he was involved in. Every other guy who would be involved in something like that, whether it's domestic abuse, whether it's what he did, they're phony. Michael Vick walked the walk and he talked the talk every time. Like he genuinely went out of his way to show the world that he was going to be a better person. And I'll always respect him for that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I give more people the benefit of the doubt than you do. People, I don't say, I'm not going to say every single person, but I know what you mean. Like it's hard to find people that are genuinely remorseful from their wrongdoings, and when you find one, like it doesn't mean a lot. So like you love to cling on to stories like that. So I hear you. All right, Les, number 3. Who's your number 3?
Ron Jaworski is number 3 for me.
That's where you have Jaworski.
I just feel like that was such an era. That was an important era for the Eagles. The Vermeil era. His stats aren't incredible, but he was the leader here for a long time. He was behind bad offensive lines most of the time. I thought, he became, talk about an icon, a franchise icon. I mean, this was a guy who really, in the 80s, until Randall came along, he was the Eagles. Jaws was. And I feel like if you look at the franchise rankings, I mean, I think it supports that in terms of what he did, his stats. In today's game, a guy like that wouldn't be as prolific probably or as valued, but in the game that he played in, he was a tough, winning quarterback who really did a lot for the franchise. So I have him as 3.
I can see that. And I struggled with, again, like I said, Jaworski and Foles, because I think with Jaworski, it's like the opposite of Foles. It's like Foles was such a roller coaster where you had the inconsistencies, but when he's hitting, he's playing out of his mind. But with Jaworski, like this, and it's hard because it's a different era. So if you go back to his stats, like there's a lot of accumulation of volume stats, and he was here for a long period of time, and they don't jump out to you. But again, it's a different era. Like it's hard to really say, okay, like this Jaworski stats, you compare him to like Donovan McNabb's, and it's no brainer.
Right.
But it's like it's a different brand of football back then, so like that's not always fair to do. So I wasn't born during that, obviously, when Jaworski was here, but when I see film of him, when I see like the stats and what he's meant to, and like he's it helps too. I think that he's still a pillar in this community, and with the franchise, I think that helps in relations and the optics of it. You know what I mean? And building his legacy as an Eagle. So it's I put him ahead of Foles for that because he was just consistent for so long that I can't like that. That is a credit to him over Foles' inconsistencies. So yeah, it's a little it's tough, but we get into the top two.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I have Jalen Hurts as number 2, and I
You
know
have
that.
Whoa!
Okay, so you have Hurts it too.
He needs another really good year to me to be
Okay.
number 1. He just hasn't done that. To me, Donovan McNabb, who obviously is number 1, if you look at his career statistics, they're far beyond what Hurts has been able to do because he logged a lot more years and at a high level.
Yep.
And I know he didn't win the Super Bowl, obviously. And you could do it either way. You could do Hurts as number 1, but really that's recency bias or whatever. I mean, he hasn't really had his career yet. He needs at least one more year to me to be the all-time greatest quarterback in Eagles history. I think it's still McNabb. I think he's the career passing leader, and will be for a while because Hurts has some catching up to do there. He given last year and the dependence on Barkley and so forth, Hurts isn't really that close in a lot of categories. Donovan was. I know everybody. I got in a big. I don't want to spend all night on this, but I got in a big social media crossfire.
Because you
last
compare
week.
Dak and McNabb.
Exactly. I follow Clarence Hill, who's a writer in Dallas, a veteran writer who's covered the Cowboys for many, many years. And he was feuding with his followers over, they were just so down on Dak. They all hate Dak, or not all of them, but the people that were responding to him hate Dak, think Dak's horrible. They need to get rid of Dak. He's a disaster. And Clarence was trying to reason with them. Dak's actually been a pretty good quarterback. Yeah, the playoffs, but on the other hand, so on. And I just made the comparison that it's like it was with McNabb here. Well,
I think he's like McNabb light.
Except, everybody. I didn't know there were so many Donovan defenders in the Eagles fan ranks.
There wasn't when he played. I'll tell you that there wasn't when he played. Les.
I know. Believe me, I know. Yes, but it's all about the playoffs now. Had Donovan played an X number of NFC Championship, how can you possibly say, well, that wasn't what I was talking about? I was talking about the fan base and its concept of a guy who is a Pro Bowl quarterback and has done a lot of good things for the franchise. And I think they are similar in that regard.
The sentiment toward those athletes. So I hear you.
But people on Twitter, they just see a tweet and they're like, they don't get the context and it's just. But anyway, so McNabb is my number 1. And, I still feel pretty good about that.
Briggs, where do you have it?
This is tough because I had McNabb 1 for a lot of years, even when Hurts was coming up and doing well in the playoffs. The main reason I have Jalen Hurts number 1 is you have 22 teams in the NFL bitching and moaning to change the rules because of what Jalen Hurts is best at.
Yep.
That's gold. I love it. It's like it's the Wilt Chamberlain factor.
Yep.
Wilt Chamberlain used to just like dunk his foul shots. So they said he was so tall and so big. So then, like, they had to come, like, they had to go, yo, like, he can't do that. It's not fair. It's too dominant. And eventually they changed
Just
it.
palm that shit.
Oh
It's
my
just
god!
like they're trying, these 22 crybaby teams in the NFL are hell bent on changing the way the game football is played because of Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
That's
So
a good argument.
Yeah,
I
that's a
got
good
Jalen
argument.
Hurts
Yeah.
over. I mean,
You're
Jalen
right.
Hurts won the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts has a lot of playoff wins. I think it's a shame that the management in the McNabb era didn't give him.
Yeah.
They gave him T.O. for 1
Oh,
year. It's 1
yeah,
year.
Right.
yeah.
1 year. They always had a good offensive line and a decent
Yeah.
running game. But boy, man, if he had two studs like Devontae Smith and A.J.
Right.
Brown,
Right.
like, where would McNabb have gone? He would have won a championship.
I
He
do
might have been arguing when they got too much
I do have something
limelight.
to say that.
The last thing I'll say about the topic is Donovan McNabb. He didn't play clutch.
No,
Didn't.
Nope.
He did not have the clutch gene.
he liked to
but
puke on the field.
He did puke on the field, and I'll never forgive
Yeah.
him for that
Yeah.
because there's rumors on why he was puking on the field.
Oh,
And
yeah.
But like that's like the most
You know.
McNabb thing ever. The lights are bright. What do?
throw up.
But yeah.
How do you? I'm pretty
He
sure
did
I know how
have.
you
He
See,
did
that's-
have in against Tampa. He was coming off the busted ankle, unlucky, and against Carolina, Todd Pinkston dropped the ball 3 times for 3 interceptions, and he broke his ribs in that game.
Yeah.
And McNabb
So-
did play well. McNabb was clutch against the Packers in that. What was it?
In 4th and 26, now
so
it's my
he-
second favorite game of all time.
He
because
was
they beat the
also
Rams in
clutch
the snow.
against Arizona in 2008, but the
Yes.
defense couldn't
Yeah.
make the lead
He
stand
was.
up.
Yeah,
You
he
know?
came back. 100%.
I don't think he was. Yeah, the whole puking thing. We could talk. I've talked so much about this. I'm so sick of it. But what happened at the end of that drive that he puked on?
He threw a
He scored
touchdown.
a touchdown.
Yeah, he threw a touchdown pass to Greg Lewis. So if he was choking, how did that occur exactly?
It's
Fair
just not a
point.
good look. It's not a
Fair
good look.
point.
Les.
It's not a
He
good
threw
look, but
3
it doesn't
awful.
matter. It
He
doesn't
threw
matter.
3 awful interceptions in that game. The Eagles were by
He did,
far the
yes.
more talented
There
team.
you're on.
Like
There
Donovan
you're on
McNabb
good
choked.
ground. Yes, more than the
Yeah.
puking, you're on great ground there. But there were all kinds of things that happened in that game, including Brian Westbrook wide open, dropping what could have been a touchdown pass. But
And
only one guy gets the blame for that.
the Patriots cheating. So I mean, we're not going to talk about that.
And look in the
Oh.
second half of that game. Watch the film and see if you can find Jeremiah Trotter anywhere.
Oh God, God. PY, I'm pretty sure I know where you have it listed, but go ahead and
Yeah,
recite it.
I have Donovan too. Like, look, most playoff wins in Eagles history. You know, we went to 4 NFC Championship games. We went to a Super Bowl. Runner-up MVP. Like, Donovan was exceptional. He's a very good quarterback for the Eagles. He couldn't get it done. He wasn't a closer. Like, not everyone is. Like, not everyone is Mariano Rivera. Sometimes you're just a good quarterback. Not great.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with him being in the Hall. Like, if there was a Hall of very good, McNabb would be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Right.
But it's not. It's the Hall of Fame. Like,
With
it's
the Hall of Fame thing, I've thought a lot about. He really screwed himself there. When he left the Eagles, he wasn't old. He wasn't too banged up. He could have played. Quarterbacks play a while.
Yeah.
He could have played 2-3 more really good seasons and been a Hall of Famer because he was close. He was really close.
He was on a good trajectory. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he didn't do it. He was hard. He was bad in Washington, and he was worse in Minnesota. And then he quit.
Yeah.
And he didn't put up the numbers. I mean, his numbers just aren't
Right.
there for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I hear you.
They're almost there, and
Yeah.
it's getting farther away because the era's changed, and what was decent numbers 15 years ago isn't decent numbers now.
Yeah. So I do have Jalen Hurts as 1, and I have Donovan McNabb as 2. I will admit, I will flat out admit, there is bias in this because I've never been a huge McNabb fan. I think the way he's ingratiated himself post career hasn't done any favors.
at all.
I never was a fan of his demeanor, and
Yeah.
I didn't like he had some really great performances even in the playoffs, but overall I would not classify him as a clutch quarterback. And I think that when it came down to these two things, right? These two, Hurts or McNabb. I get that McNabb still has the accumulation stats, the volume stats, all that, and like Hurts still objectively Hurts should still have to have another year or two of really good quarterback play in order to really get to that level production wise for McNabb. But if I were to frame it this way, which quarterback would I want leading my team? It's Hurts.
Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah.
I'm going with Hurts without hesitation. And just
2 minutes,
demeanor,
game on the line.
leadership.
You need a score. Who do you trust? It's Jalen all day, every day.
And I think that also you look at, and I mentioned this before, when you talk about legacy, and I mentioned this on Film Don't Lie with Pete when we were talking about Saquon Barkley and his season and whether his season was the greatest running back season of all time. I mentioned how a lot of this stuff, when you look at it, I factor in storyline to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the story of Jalen Hurts as a Philadelphia Eagle, even though it's not complete yet, it's already like one for the record books in terms of a guy who was drafted on day 2, second round, and the draft pick was absolutely hated because we had Wentz. And then him working his way and just winning over the locker room, earning that starting job, being doubted even by I had my doubts about him. I didn't think he was going to be.
I was his biggest hater.
Yeah, I had my doubts about him, proving everyone wrong constantly, year in and year out, and losing the Super Bowl 2 years ago, the way that he did, where he was the best player on the field. He was like Tom Brady back in Super Bowl 52, where he was the best player on the field but lost. That was Jalen Hurts. He was the best player on the field but lost. But then to be able to have, stuff like the wallpaper, right, of him walking off the field, and then just constantly working, and then 2023 the collapse and all that, but to come through the way he did, to win Super Bowl MVP the way he did, that's a storyline that gets attached to him that Philadelphia is never going to forget. So you look at that, and that 100% is a factor into greatness. Those moments, it's greatness. And I'm gonna, again, when we talk about that, it's another factor. It's gonna be another factor into my rankings for the greatest Eagles running backs of all time.
Oh God!
Hint for I think next week or a week after. But that matters. Like that matters is what you do for your legacy and being able to build that and the story behind what you're able to accomplish. So that's how I was able to come to the decision between the two. So I get it that I don't have an issue with people still having McNabb as the greatest Eagles quarterback. I think that's fair, 100% fair. But I think Hurts has now finally reached that point where, for me at least, he's surpassed him. And
McNabb,
with the McNabb Hall of Fame thing, I'll frame it this way real quick. He was so good, but in that era he played, was he ever considered on the level of his peers? Was he ever considered on the level of Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees? Like he didn't. It's not that he was never even looked at as better. Like obviously he was never better, but did people look at him as the same, as like same tier, it's the same equal? I don't think he ever was looked that way. So if you want to consider him a Hall of Famer, but he was never considered a tier 1 elite quarterback,
right?
I can't look at him that way. I get, and it's similar.
Never a tier 1 quarterback.
No.
Well, it depends on how you define tier 1. I mean, if that's
third in the league
5,
until Drew Brees went to New Orleans.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think he was ever better than Drew Brees, but yeah.
I don't agree with that. The Chargers, Drew Brees, McNabb was better than. There's a lot to unpack. A lot to unpack with McNabb. We could do a whole show on McNabb. McNabb never liked us. And when I say us, he meant the fans. He never liked us. He never bought in. He never got it because that idiot Angelo Cataldi and the Dirty 30 went up there to New York for no reason and booed the shit out of him because they didn't pick.
But that should just tell you how soft he is. Like
he never got over it.
It's
sort of what I'm saying. Like he never got over that. Right. Never. And he was a professional and he was a good player, but when it came, he was never going to be an over the moon Philadelphia legend when he didn't get it.
Well, that was a long time ago, and I know you guys aren't that old, but I knew Donovan's parents, Sam and Wilma. They were people from the deep South who lived in Chicago, and they bought a house in the suburbs. And before they could move in, the house was vandalized. People spray painted stuff on there. They didn't want these black people moving into their neighborhood. Yeah, there's a lot of scar tissue with Donovan. Donovan always thought of himself as the black quarterback, and he had to be the spokesman. He couldn't really be a real person, I don't think. I think he just felt like he had to be this exemplar, like even though he was a little bit past the first wave of black quarterbacks, I think he still saw things very rigidly. And that booing thing, I know for a fact he and his family thought that was racial, and I don't think he ever. You're right. He didn't get over it. I mean, they were very suspicious people for the whole time he was here. Everybody around him was very wary and very suspicious. And it's a shame. It really is, because I don't think he's a bad guy at all.
No, I don't think he's a bad guy.
But, it's partly his fault and it partly isn't, like so many things in life.
I think the last part I'll say about McNabb and like what kind of always deterred me is that I think that I always felt like he had too big of a really big ego to where he had to be in the spotlight. He had to be.
He couldn't put it to the side. Like he had to be the guy.
And that's why that's part of it. I'm not saying it's the main reason. I think that's a part of the reason why him and T.O. clashed. Why he didn't stick up for T.O. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
T.O. was jealous of Donovan.
Oh yeah,
One of the first things I heard from T.O. when T.O. came,
100%.
Donovan had all these national like Campbell soup and all this stuff. Nobody would touch T.O. for that kind of thing. Nobody wanted T.O. as their spokesman because and he was really. He was like chuffed about that from the very beginning. Why is this guy the icon? Why? Yeah. And T.O. never understood on any team he was ever on. He never understood that it was a team game. Talk about a guy that thought it was all about him. That would be the guy.
Yeah,
Donovan had ego as well. There's no doubt.
It's two egomaniacs that just clash, and I think I always say, and we'll save the details for another show, but that whole drama between them two, they're both equally at fault. Like I know, like they
one of them started it, and it wasn't Donovan.
Yeah. I think the fact that both of them still cling on to it and are and still hold the grudge to this day is kind of telling. I think that McNabb is lucky that the best player on offense for his best weapon for much of his career here, aka Brian Westbrook, wasn't a spotlight person. He was very quiet.
Right.
And he's lucky that Westbrook wasn't like that because I think there would have been another.
Oh, yeah, without question.
And if people want to push back on that.
There's no pushback. It's 100% factual.
Look what happened with Deshaun Jackson when Deshaun Jackson got.
He's just a punt returner.
It's like there's always something there that I'm like, what is it with his ego? You know what I mean? Like,
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
yes.
It's a whole.
Corny. He was always corny too.
Yeah,
with his dances.
He just
and his
wasn't authentic.
Just
like
Yeah.
Not authentic. Very good way of
That's
putting
Like
it.
you can say whatever you want about Hurts. Like Hurts has his corny like sayings, the main thing's the main thing, all that stuff. But guess what?
But he
That's
is
him. That's
That's him.
always been him.
Yeah.
Like the corniness is what that's what he's all about. And he always has had this aura about him that's just like it gravitates you towards him, but it's authentic. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
With
It
McNabb,
is. It is.
it wasn't always a thing. And again, like I respect McNabb for what he did. Like I don't, I feel bad because it sounds like we're bashing him, and I respect.
it's just
him for
honesty.
doing- Yeah, I respect
Yeah.
him for what he did. Like he helped turn this franchise around 100%, and I will always respect McNabb the player for all the things he did for the Eagles in this franchise 100%. I just if I'm talking about why I always had reservations about him, this is what it is.
Right.
It's like it's
Understood.
why I
Yeah.
gravitate to Hurts more than I gravitate to McNabb is because Hurts is so likable. Like it's so likable. So yeah, that is. And McNabb could be. I know there are others at this station in the company that would fight us because they love McNabb, and I respect that. I think that that's fine. I just
It's gonna be a short
I
fight.
never was a fan of McNabb, but it's a good conversation. Guys, we did a really good job, I think, with these QB rankings. It wasn't as far off. I think the only hot take one was Cunningham at 7, but
Yeah,
even
you're right.
even you said he was probably a little too low for you. So I think that we did. It's good to see.
I thought you were gonna have Vick much higher. I thought I was gonna catch a lot of heat.
Who, me?
Yes.
Oh no, because it was like
I was literally driving home when I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna put Chucks on the heater.
No. I think it's fair where Mike that where's it, that 4 to 6 range. I think it's completely fair because he only had the one season, even though the one season was the best ever. Like you know what I mean? So it is just the one season, but
It's kind of the way the sport goes. But if you notice, even with my 10, there's only one guy that so far has played his whole career with the Eagles, and that's Jalen Hurts.
and that's Jalen Hurts. Yeah, that is so true. That is so true.
That's the story of this franchise and quarterbacks.
It is.
Even
100%.
Jaworski, you could add his Rams years in
His
there.
Rams tenure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean,
100%. 100%. All right, gentlemen, we had a great show. Like we made it to an hour 7 minutes, and Les, thank you for hanging in with us. It's summer, so I like doing these exercises and
yes,
discussions. I think these are fun ways to get through the off season, the dead point of the off season. So we're gonna have more of these. I'm hesitant to do the running back one because you guys know me and I'm going to be very passionate about my opinion. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to, but we're definitely going to do a wide receiver one maybe next week. And that one's going to be a lot of
An
fun.
Eagles wide receiver one?
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun.
We can just skip that show. We might have to combine tight ends.
So that's
like T.O., Deshaun Jackson, and who else? The two
Well,
guys
no,
now.
Mike Quick and
Jeremy Macklin.
Yeah,
Deshaun.
That's even worse. That's even worse than the quarterbacks.
Yeah, but it'll be fun to see where we rank them. So it'll be a lot of fun. But to those of us who chimed in on the chat, thank you so much. You guys are awesome today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll have more of these positional rankings all this summer. Thank you to our sponsor, Baggio's Bread. Remember, guys, they have awesome bread, and they're bread suppliers for a lot of the great cheesesteak spots around the area. So hit them up, mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. For myself, for Brinks, for PY, and for Les Bowen. Catch the rest of our shows at A2D Radio. We will be back next week. Until then, have a good week. Go Birds. Peace out.
yes.